Training process is about 18 months. The dogs go through a trial period before that even starts to determine if they're a good fit for our program. And it helps us get a really thorough assessment of their temperament during that time. The next part of training is broken down into 5 phases over those 18 months.
Our dogs are not going to be introduced to a veteran until phase 3, because when the pairing process occurs, and our veteran applicants, once accepting the program, understand you are not going to meet any dogs until they are capable in phase 3, and we feel like it is a good potential match for you to come in and actually meet this dog, work with that dog. At the end of phase 3, right, phase 3 ends when that pairing process has occurred and we understand the dog is going with this veteran. Here's the list of what this veteran is going to need. Phase 4, phase 5 is going to be completely wrapped around catering that dog to meet that veteran's needs.
Current numbers are about $40,000 to train one of our service dogs. That includes the trainer's compensation, that includes all the equipment that is needed, their housing, their food, their veterinary care, anything that you can think of that you would use and pay for with your pet dog, on top of housing them here and then on top of training them. So we're never asking the veteran to pay for anything. So even if their dog retires, we'll cover that cost whilst working on getting them a new service dog to take the previous one's place once they've passed on.
When you donate to the organization, right, there are obviously a lot of cost involved in running a 501c3, but I think the sheer fact that when people understand that we cover the costs for the life of the dog, including obviously the training part, which means housing them, taking care of everything we just talked about, what it costs to train the dog, our veterans costs, right? When our veterans come in town, we pay for everything. We take care of their travel, their flights, their hotel, their food. And then on top of that, once the dog is placed, we are taking care of those costs, right? So when you start looking at all of those costs and you're adding all of that up, that clearly is a large percentage of our operating costs. It's, there's a lot of times we'll have individuals that donate. If you donate a specific amount, it's like, look, if you donate $5,000, that's essentially going to cover the cost of an annual training session for one of our VSD teams in the field. So that covers the cost of our travel to go to the individual, stay with them for a week or whatever the case may be, our lodging, food, taking care of the veteran while we're there, any of the training needs, and maybe equipment upgrades that the dogs might need. There's such a varying degree of where that money goes, but I think once you understand everything that we're taking care of from a financial standpoint, it's very clear to see your donated money is absolutely going to the operational costs that we incur in order to make sure these dogs are well taken care of and our veterans aren't carrying any of the burden whatsoever.
And we serve nationwide, so we have veterans from coast to coast. So, being able to get to them and being able to go to their home and work with their dog in their home and the environment that they both live in and help them thrive there is so much more impactful than having them come out here for a week for their annual training. It makes so much more sense to go to them and help them in their
real life
zone.
Their real life. Mm-hmm. It's a huge bonus for us to be able to afford to do that. So that donated money is absolutely integral for us to provide that level of support, which I think makes us really unique. So our structure here has shifted a little bit over the last year. Myself being hired, Carol Sheehan being hired. So we now have an executive team that is made up of Carol as our Director of Operations and Director of Communications. April has assumed the role of Director of Fundraising. Bridgette obviously remains as our Director of Training, and I still serve as the Director of Veteran Services. So we do have a volunteer board. Our president of our board is Jim Schutte, and Sarah Gladstein, both being local, play large roles and assisting us when needed when it comes to financial issues, potential facility movement expansion. Obviously, our chairman of our board and our founder, Andy Gladstein, still plays a role. So we have a lot of support from the board. That again, it's just an added bonus for us to have that level of support. While they give us a ton of trust and room to handle the day-to-day operations of the organization.
Bryan just talked about the board and our executive team. The hard work in making sure that our dogs get to our veterans come from our training team. So we have a lovely staff with several trainers. We have apprentice trainers and canine companions as well. So they come in every single day, anywhere between the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and put in a good day's hard work to make sure that our dogs are healthy, well taken care of, and well trained. On top of that, we also have a pretty substantial volunteer community, and volunteers are so essential for coming in here and helping us with keeping the building clean and healthy so that the environment is well suited for our dogs while they live here. And they take off a lot of that responsibility off our training team so that they can really allocate their time, effort, and talent into training the dogs versus having to kind of mix some responsibilities and have to clean and train dogs. So we really rely on our volunteers that come in the building quite heavily.
And it's our volunteers not only in the building, but also we have a substantial group, specific group of individuals that volunteer for us at events, which is of huge benefit. They're willing to sell merchandise and just get out and spread the mission. Again, without them, the staff gets stretched really thin. We are very fortunate to be asked to attend a lot of events and go to a lot of different meetings and whatnot. On top of the travel and whatnot that we have to put in to go take care of our VSD teams, you add all of that up, it's taxing for an organization that number-wise is very small. So those volunteers play such an integral role on us being able to meet the mission and expand the mission by getting out in the community and spreading the word. So unfortunately, we have a very specific niche of veterans that we're able to serve, and I get a lot of applications. There's just no way we can meet the needs for all of them. So I have to be very specific about who I am going to choose to bring into the organization, which means I'm going to have to deny quite a few veterans when they do apply. If I do have to deny a veteran, I will offer any services I can in my own knowledge and resources to guide them to another organization that might be able to provide help for them, and that not always the dog route either. We may have a little bit more of a conversation. If I do deny someone, I try to have a little bit more of a thorough conversation with them when warranted, to help understand what are they truly looking for, which then gives me a little bit more information to give them an informed response to guide them towards some resources that could be helpful.
It gets very tricky, and we don't want to be an organization that has a line of veterans that we've approved and then have to tell them it's going to be 6 years until you get your dog. It's so tricky. So we do our best to make sure that we balance the number of dogs that we have in our program with the number of veterans that we have approved through the application process, so that if we get more veterans that are applying, we can also lean on our VSO partners and be like, hey, we are not at a place where we can serve you right now. It doesn't mean we won't be there in the future. It doesn't mean our capacity won't grow in the future, not only in size, but like in skill set. But it's so nice to have these partnerships to lean on, to be like, hey, I've got a veteran who he just needs a PTSD dog, and we've got 3 or 4 partners in the area that can help with that. So it's really beneficial.